Hey, Sleeple, while you were watching Maui burn and Trump's ridiculous going nowhere case and Obama's personal chef getting drowned in a paddleboarding accident, I found out something actually useful. Here's something else you can do no research on, but still say I'm wrong and a conspiracy theorist. I don't make any of my videos for you goofies. It even says in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 6 through 7. As for those who persist in disbelief, it is the same whether you warn them or not. They will never believe. Allah has sealed their hearts and their hearing, and their sight is covered. In other words, you are deaf, dumb, and blind. But for my people who watch my videos and then go and do their own research to either confirm or deny my claims before just emotionally dismissing it, this video and all my videos are for you. In 2012, President Obama ended the ban on domestic propaganda. In a nutshell, the government legalized lying to you using all forms of media. You can find this information at congress.gov for all my internet experts. It's known as the 2012 Modernization of the Smith-Mundt Act. The original act permitted the State Department and the Broadcasting Board of Governors to broadcast propaganda abroad, but prohibited such programs on American soil. The 2012 Modernization of the Smith-Mundt Act basically made it legal for the government to broadcast lies to you for the purposes of programming, as it would a foreign country. Here's the entire summary of the document on congress.gov. It reads, introduced in the House 510-2012. Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 amends the United States Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948 to authorize the Secretary of State and the Broadcasting Board of Governors to provide for the preparation and dissemination of information intended for foreign audience abroad about the United States, including about its people, its history, the federal government's policies, through press, publications, radio, motion pictures, the internet, and other information media, including social media, and through information centers and instructors. Under current law, such authority is restricted to information disseminated abroad with a limited domestic exception. Remember, current law was 2012. This act has been in place since then. Authorizes the secretary and the board to make available in the United States motion pictures, films, video, audio, and other materials prepared for dissemination abroad or disseminated abroad pursuant to the act. The United States International Broadcasting Act of 1994, the Radio Broadcasting to Cuba Act, or the Television Broadcasting to Cuba Act. It amends the Foreign Relations Authorization Act, fiscal years 1986 and 1987, to prohibit funds, federal funds, for the Department of State or the board from being used to influence public or opinion or propagandizing in the United States. So this act allows federal funds for the State Department and the Broadcasting Board of Governors to be used to propagandize the United States citizens. What does all this mean, you ask? How does it affect you personally, you ask? Great questions. This simply means that the news, movies, music, social media, every form of media can legally be used to influence and manipulate you and your family by your government. The government can legally lie to you the same way they would propagandize the people of a foreign country that they were at war with. That's what it means. It means if you still think there is any integrity in any of the things your masters in the government tell you to believe, then you're a special kind of nincompoop that would use an umbrella to stay dry from the rain in a swimming pool of water. That's what it means. It affects you personally because if you believe the propaganda, you will behave irrationally because your actions are based on the lies you were fed. You will be easily manipulated by the government legally to behave in a desired manner. This is the type of person who would never go on Congress.gov or any other information source and verify or disprove my information before dismissing it as a conspiracy. They will base their conclusions off of their emotions. I call these guys sleeple. If you don't believe the propaganda and you know everything I'm telling you is solid information, it affects you personally because you live in a world where most people believe the propaganda and you still have to maneuver in this world to some extent. Sleeple can make this difficult for you if you vocally oppose what their shepherd tells them. Sleeple outnumber us at least 5-1. They are usually living the American dream, which you have to be asleep to accept in the first place. They love their masters and they are not receptive to truth, so don't bother. The United States Agency for Global Media, known until 2018 as the Broadcasting Board of Governors, is an independent agency of the United States government that broadcasts news and information. It is considered an arm of U.S. diplomacy. What the fuck is an independent agency of the United States government, you ask? Great question. In the United States government, independent agencies are agencies that exist outside the federal executive departments, those headed by a cabinet secretary, and the executive office of the president. In a narrower sense, the term refers only to those independent agencies that, while considered part of the executive branch, have regulatory or rule-making authority and are insulated from presidential control, usually because the president's power to dismiss the agency head or a member is limited. Established through separate statutes passed by the Congress, each respective statutory grant of authority defines the goals the agency must work towards, as well as what substantive areas, if any, over which it may have the power of rule-making. These agency rules or regulations, when enforced, have the power of federal law. In other words, an independent government agency can make federal law and are not required to answer to anyone, including the President of the United States, who is the so-called leader of the free world. Just to give you an idea of how many independent government agencies there are, here's the list. As you see, it goes on for quite a while. None of these agencies answer to the people of this great nation. Let's take a closer look at a few. The CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. They are the primary human intelligence provider for the federal government, but answer to nobody. What the fuck is human intelligence, Ezekiel? Great question. The HumInt collector seeks to identify adversarial elements, intentions, compositions, strength, dispositions, tactics, equipment, personnel, and capabilities using military source operations, interrogations, screenings, debriefings, and assists in the translation and exploitation of documents in media. I believe the proper term is mind control. Another independent government agency is the Federal Reserve System, often called the Fed. It's the central bank of the United States. It conducts the nation's monetary policy by influencing the volume of credit and money in circulation. The Federal Reserve regulates private banking institutions, works to contain systemic risk in financial markets, and provides certain financial services to the federal government, the public, and financial institutions. In other words, they control the fiat money, fake money, which are actually debt notes, not worth the paper they're printed on. This is used to keep us enslaved in their debt-based system by making us use imaginary money to essentially pay for free shit. As long as you fear losing your house or your car or your status in society, you will get up every day and work for fake money to pay for things that are naturally provided for free by the earth. The materials for everything you have came from this earth. We gave someone else control of our free resources and they sell it back to us. They created money as the middleman between us and our own natural resources. How can anyone own natural resources? How stupid are people to pay for free shit? Another company that's independent of the government, but a government agency, is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA. It's the federal government space agency. It is responsible for the civilian space program as well as aeronautics and aerospace research. These guys are the absolute worst. NASA, if you did not know, means deceive in Hebrew. You think they didn't know that when they named it? It's got a freaking snake tongue in its logo. Now, I'm not saying the earth is flat or round. I personally accept that I have no idea where we are, let alone the shape of the place. What I will say is that believing NASA's claim that the earth, which allegedly has a circumference of about 24,000 miles, is spinning around on its axis at 1,000 miles per hour, roughly, while rotating around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour, while the sun and our entire solar system is hurtling through infinite space at 450,000 miles per hour. Yet we don't feel a thing. That sounds a bit stupid to me, if you believe that. I don't get off into the shape of the earth. I know whatever the government says about it, since 2012 at least, is a legal lie. So I'm not going with that. Sleeple will believe anything. For those who believe, no proof is necessary. For those who don't believe, no proof is possible.